proactive school, ma'am, I've seen, and the students here are very well
Ah,
invested, So we are
that's
lovely, and I've told the students they can ask you as many questions as they
please
wish to.
as interactive as possible because that's the point of it.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Over to you, ma'am, and Andrea will start the session for you in 5 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. Whenever.
Okay, yes. Yes, quiet. See, if they see you talking, I'm extremely sorry, ma'am. I'm extremely sorry.
So we are back. Yeah. Just give us 5 more minutes. I mean, this has been a lapse from the
Take your
technical.
time. Take your time. Technology always does this. So don't worry at all.
Class here. See, on the
Just mute yourself, please. Mute yourselves.
Andrea, can we take a go ahead and start? You're there, Andrea?
Right.
You can spotlight yourself also, Shabnam.
Right. I hope everyone can see me and hear me. Terribly sorry about the mix-up, but thank you so much for quickly hopping onto the new link. And Shabnam ma'am, thank you so much for being with us today. We're so excited for the session with you, and we can't wait to hear what you have to say. But for everybody else, just to give you a very short introduction. Miss Shabnam is one of the most acclaimed children's authors. She's written so many wonderful books for children, and her short stories are included in numerous anthologies. Miss Shabnam is also a journalist. She's also a columnist with a number of Indian newspapers and magazines. And she is the former senior assistant editor with the Times of India in Mumbai. So without further ado, I would like to hand over today's session. Children, I hope all of you are super excited. It's going to be a fun session. And yes, over to you, Miss Shabnam. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's very exciting for me to think that I'm talking to all of you in Lucknow, because that is one of my absolute favorite cities in India. And I hope one day I can visit you in real life. That would be even more fun. How many of you like stories? Are you story lovers over here? Yeah, I see a lot of hands going up. And I'm putting up two hands because even I love stories. And so today, on this Saturday morning, I thought we would I'll tell you a bit of a story. We will chat about words and we will chat about all kinds of things. We'll do a little creative activity. And then you can ask me any question you want about reading and writing and stories and books and, whatever you feel like chatting about. Does that sound good, all of you? Yeah? Great. So I know I'm talking to lots and lots of students, so I'm not really sure how we will get answers from everyone, but we will figure out a way. So as Andrea told you, for a long time, I used to be a journalist. Do you know what a journalist is? How many of you know what a journalist is? Yeah, right. So a journalist is somebody who works in a newspaper. So I used to go and, cover railway accidents and new clubs starting and interview film stars and interview politicians and scientists and all kinds of things. And then about 10 years after I was a journalist at Times of India, something big happened in my life. And fatafat, I got not one, not two, but three babies. And how many of you have seen mummies with one baby? How many of you have seen mummies with one baby? Put up your hands if you've seen a mum with one baby. And isn't that a mummy a busy person? Is that mummy a busy person? Yeah. But I had one baby who was 2 years old and two who were freshly born. So I was very busy and very irritated because I spent all my day mashing potato and mashing doodhi and opening up nappies to see if there was some horrible, smelly little surprise. And can any of you guess how I was feeling? Who can guess how I was feeling? How do you think I was feeling?
Ma'am, you were feeling frustrated?
Very frustrated and grumpy and grouchy. And then I thought to myself, there's one thing in the world that I really love more than jalebis, more than cupcakes, more than movies, more than even traveling. And any guess what that is? I see lots of hands up. Who's going to tell me what that is?
Your child?
Okay, equal to my child.
Reading.
Reading. Absolutely, reading. And I thought, okay, I am now at the stage of my life when nobody is expecting anything from me except that I keep these three children alive and quite healthy and not smelling too hideous. So maybe in my little free time, I can try and write a book. But given that I was in a very grumpy mood about children, do you think I wanted to write a book about children? Do you think I wanted to write a book for children? No, I wanted to write a book for adults. And given that my mood was very, very grumpy, I wanted to write a book for adults which was full of policemen and, dead bodies and footprints and fingerprints and like a proper murder mystery. So imagine my horror when the first line I wrote for my new book was, in Cozy Castle, there lives a dragon and two princesses and an old crone who may or may not have magical powers. Now, does that sound like a book for adults or does that sound like a book for children? Adults or children? What do you think? Yes. And I was most disgusted. But anyway, I wrote. And I'll show you that first book that came out. The first book was called The Six Hellmakers of Dorabji Street. And it was the story of 6 children who lived in, can anybody guess where these children lived in? They lived on a road called Dorabji Street. And Dorabji Street doesn't exist, at least not exactly where I've put it. But I took it from my head and put it in a city. Who will guess which city? I'll give you one hint. Do you know which city I live in? Does anybody know which city I live in? So I live in Mumbai. So where? So Dorabji Street was also, I put it in Mumbai. And then I wrote the story about these 6 children who are having their summer holidays and they're having a lovely time playing cricket and climbing trees in their garden. But then one day, 2 old ladies, mean old ladies in their building decide, enough, these children are making too much noise. These children are having too much fun. Stop it. And to make the children unhappy, they had 2 new rules in the building. Rule number 1 was no cricket in the compound. And rule number 2, the 2 old ladies decided to cut down 2 trees in the garden. And can you imagine how the children felt? How would you feel if somebody came and said they were doing that in your house? How would you feel? Why? And angry, and this is not allowed. So this book is really about how the 6 children tried to save the tree. Yes, sad and angry, absolutely. Thank you for the... Anyway, so now, but today I'm here not to talk about that book. I'm here to talk about a series of books I've written about a girl named Nimi. Okay, so Nimi, girl and her classmates. So Nimi is a girl who is just joining grade 6, standard 6. Okay, so the first book starts on the morning of standard 6. But before I tell you the story, I'm going to tell you a little about Nimi. So all the books I had written up to Nimi, my characters had a few powers, like they would use a little magic. One character had a superpower. One character could see ghosts, things like that. But then I got a challenge for myself. I thought Nimi has to be a girl like us. She can have no superpowers. She will meet no ghosts. She will probably use no magic. And so Nimi is a girl in the middle. She is not too pretty and she is not too not pretty. She is not too clever and she is not too what? Not clever. She's not too happy and she's not too sad. She's like you and me, right? Somebody in the middle. Now, but Nimi she lives in a big, tall building in Mumbai in an area called Kafre. And she lives with her mummy, her daddy, and her brother Tarun. Now, Tarun is one of the super clever boys. I'm sure you will know somebody like him. He walks and talks and behaves just like an encyclopedia. So if you say, hey, Tarun, can you name me all the rings of Saturn? Quickly, he will name everything. But if you say, hey, Tarun, Mr. Khanna, who lives across from you, does he have a daughter? Tarun will look very surprised and he will rub his eyes and say, there is a man named Mr. Khanna living across from me in my building. I didn't even know that. So Tarun is one of those boys, okay? He belongs in another world. Nimi's mummy is a very cheerful person. She, at everything, anything that bad happens, she will tell Nimi, think positive. And sometimes Nimi gets very upset because sometimes Nimi wants to think negatively as well. And Nimi's daddy is like a lot of our daddies, very, very, very busy. And he is sort of hardly around. Now, Nimi attends a school named Vidya World School. And every morning she goes to the school by school bus. Nimi has very strong likes and dislikes. The person that she loves more than anyone in the world is her best friend, who is a girl named Sophia. And Nimi, yeah, and Nimi is very excited because Standard 6 is starting and she hasn't met Sophia for 2 whole months. So she's getting super excited about seeing her best friend. Nimi also has a favorite color. Now, I want you all to guess the favorite color. What color do you think Nimi's favorite color is? Who will guess? Not red, not pink, not green, not blue, not purple, yellow. I heard the right. Gray. You are absolutely right. Nimi's favorite color in the world is a strange color for a little girl. It is gray. Now, if I love gray or you love gray, then what is your favorite weather in the world? Rainy days, right? So Nimi loves the rain. She loves it when it rains. Now, just like Nimi loves things, Nimi also has strong dislikes. In her class, there is a boy named Sumit. Now, I think most of us also will have somebody like that we know. Sumit is the kind of boy who will go and if he hears his classmate, the teacher, he will go, Miss, no. Sorry, are you able to hear, all of you? Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So Sumit will say, Miss, they were talking about you. And if Sumit sees like a little insect, he will promptly squash it. If he sees a little puppy, he will try to harass it. So does Sumit sound like a nice boy? Does Sumit sound like a nice boy? And Nimi doesn't like him at all. Now, other than Sumit, there is a girl in Nimi's class called Alisha Dubash. Alisha Dubash is the kind of girl who has more and better than everybody else. So suppose you get tickets for a concert. Which concert would you like to attend? Which singer's concert would you like to attend? One person. Somebody's raised their hand. Will that person tell me? Just name me one person whose concert you'd like to attend. Yes, tell me.
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
Ma'am,
Okay.
I would like to attend Imagine Dragons concert.
Okay, so this is just an example. So let's take Taylor Swift as an example. Okay, so you come to your class and you say very excitedly, "I am so excited! I am going for a Taylor Swift concert."
This is anything else.
And all your friends are saying, "Wow, you are so lucky." And then Alisha Dubash comes and she says, "Oh, I have attended 6 Taylor Swift concerts and I always sit right next to the stage and Taylor Swift always blows me a kiss when she comes on the stage." Or if you say, "I am so excited, I am going for my holiday to London." Alisha Dubash will say, "Oh, London has 2 houses. excited about London. I'm going to Mars or to Jupiter. She's one of those girls. And Nimi hates Alisha Domash. Now, there is one thing more that Nimi hates, and that is her last name. Because Nimi has a last name that many people laugh at. Now, in Mumbai, it is a very common last name, but a lot of people find it very funny. And her last name, I am sorry to say, is Daruwala. And whenever Sumit calls Nimi, he will say, "Hey, Daruwala, where is my beer? Where is my whiskey?" And Nimi will feel very, very angry. And she tells her parents, when I turn 21, I am going to change my name and I am going to make my name something lovely like Radhika Shah or something that nobody can laugh at. Just a very blank and anonymous name. Now, Nimi's spectacular school days, as I told you, starts on the first day of grade 6. Oh, I forgot. There's one more thing that Nimi loves more than anything. And that is
recording progress.
Mute yourselves, please.
okay. So Nimi loves words. And do any of you collect things? Do you collect bottle caps or stamps or any different kind of thing? Feathers or shells? You collect, right? So Nimi collects words. Nimi collects words, and in her head, how does one collect words? So in her head, Nimi has an imaginary cupboard. And in one shelf, she'll put blobby words. In one shelf, she'll put skinny words. In one shelf, she'll put sad words. In one shelf, she'll put happy words. But sometimes, there are times when she can't find the perfect word to explain how she's feeling. So what does Nimi do? What do you think she does? She makes up her own words. And for example, okay, so she takes two words and she joins them. So for example, spectabulous. Which two words make up spectabulous? Who will guess?
Ma'am, Nimi.
Fabulous.
Okay, this is Bizupa today. What do you think Bizupa stands for? Two words.
Bizarre and super.
Well done. Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Dreadful and fantastic. And the last one, crowful. What does crowful? What is crowful? Which two words make up crowful? Which two words? Crazy and awful. Very good. Wonderful. So now, you know what? Do you have paper and pen with you? Do any of you have? So I thought we could make up one or two words. So I'm going to give you two words, and can you make up? Should we do it on the chat, or should we have a single child put up their hand and speak, or how? What is the best way to do it? Or do you just want to? Chat? Okay, chat. Fine. So, okay, I'm going to give you three words. No, two words to make up. Terrible and wicked. What word will terrible plus wicked make up? Terrible. Lovely. What word will shout and scream make up? Lovely. What word will yellow and purple make up? Purple. You know, when you have the time, you can even make up Nimi words, join two words, and write a whole sentence. So one way to do it is to come up with an animal, a mixed up animal. So you can mix up a spider and an alligator. How does one mix up a spider and an alligator? What would it become? Alligator? Alligator? Spider? Okay, so spiligator, shall we say? Or spigator? Okay, spigator, lovely. Spagator, lovely. Okay, and then we can decide what color the spider plus alligator is. We can merge two colors. So let us merge brown and yellow. The Brello spagator. And let's think of two action words, two verbs for the Brello spagator. Okay, this is, let's think. So when running and hopping, so how can we mix running and hopping? Spagator when dropping. Soon, where shall we send the yellow spagator? The Brello spagator. Where shall we send him or her? Shall we send him to school? To school plus new kind of place. Or a mountain and a lake. Shall we mix up mountain and lake? Come up with your very own sentences, mixing up words, and it is lots and lots of fun. But now let me tell you the story. Okay, so Nimi wakes up on the morning of standard 6 and she's not sure about whether to be very happy or very sad. She's sad because the holidays are over, but she's super happy because she's going to meet all her friends, especially Sophia. So in the morning, she gets up very quickly, and usually Nimi is always late for the bus. So if you go to Cuff Parade at 7:35 in the morning, you will always see a girl with plump cheeks and untidy hair and a big purple backpack running and shouting, Theru Bhaiya, and a school bus driving away. But today, Nimi is on time. She remembers to pack her present for Sophia. She remembers to put all her books in. She eats her breakfast and she goes to the bus. And she thinks, this year is going to be spectacular plus fabulous. It is going to be spectabulous. Then she climbs onto the bus and she's looking around for her friend Maria when a voice, a hated voice, says, Nimi Daruwala, where is my whiskey? Where is my beer? Oh no, Sumit is in my bus. He's not in my bus. How dare he come in my bus? But now she realizes that not only is Sumit in her class, he is also in her bus. And they are neighbors. Oh no. Anyway, Nimi says, I'm just going to ignore this and I am going to go to school and meet Sophia. So she reaches Vidya World School, holds her fat purple backpack and climbs up to the classroom. And then she looks around. She looks here and she looks there and she looks up and she looks down. But can she see Sophia? No. She can see everybody. She can see the nice children. She can see the not nice children. She can see the wish they would move to a planet far, far away children. But no Sophia. And then the door opens and somebody walks in. Any guesses who? Who walks in? Sophia walks in. Sophia. She is not the Sophia that Nimi knows and loves. Sophia that Nimi knows and loves is an untidy girl with a very ill-fitting uniform and a big smile and a big step. And she'll come and say, I have an idea. Let us do this. Let us make this. Let us go here. But the new Sophia who walks into the classroom has straightened her hair. Her uniform is fitting and she looks very tidy, but more than anything else, she looks very, very bored. And when she walks in, she comes walking in, and does she look at Nimi? So Nimi thinks, poor Sophia, she's just come from America. She must be very jet lagged. And she waves, "I'm Sophia." So Sophia turns around and she gives Nimi a small smile. But does she look happy to see Nimi? Not really. Then she turns around and she gives a big wave. Is the wave for Nimi? Nope. The wave is for... Who is the wave for? For
Ma'am, I think Sumit. Ma'am, I think it's Sumit.
She's waving at Alicia Dubai. And Nimi thinks, poor Sophia, she must be very jet lagged. So she's mixing it up. And she said, Sophia, I've kept a seat for you. Come and sit with me. So Sophia comes. She's not chatting. She's not smiling. And she keeps smiling, not at Nimi, but at Alicia Dubash. And slowly Nimi realizes that her best, most beloved friend has turned into half a Barbie doll and half a zombie. Who can give me the word for half Barbie, half zombie? Bambi? Barbie, lovely. Zombie, oh, wonderful. Bombi. So, yeah, so she's turned into a zombie or a zombarbie or a boombi. We have many options. Zarbi, lovely. So isn't that very sad for poor Nimi? Anyway, Nimi thinks, it's okay. The year will still be good. Sophia will one day realize that we are truly best friends. And she thinks, anyway, my favorite teacher in the world is coming. And she's going to be our class teacher, Miss Tanvi, and she's such fun. Everybody loves Miss Tanvi, and Nimi also loves Miss Tanvi. So when the classroom door opens, all the children are smiling and waiting for their favorite teacher. But the door opens, and the person who walks in is not Miss Tanvi. The person who walks in is a stranger in a brown shalwar kameez that looks like that's crackling with starch. It is all stiff and starchy. She has a pale square face and pale eyes, and she doesn't smile at all. And then when the class all stares at her, and then Rohan from the back says, "Where is Miss Tanvi?" So do you know what this woman does? She says, "My name is Miss Atmaja, and I am your class teacher." So all the children start muttering, "Where is Miss Tanvi? Where is Miss Tanvi?" So then she picks up a board and holds it up. How many of you have been to the airport and you see all those men carrying boards, Mr. Jairaman Chemicals, a Marriott Hotel, or things like that? Yeah. So she picks up a board like that. But this board doesn't say Mr. Jairaman RLC Chemicals. What is there? There is one word on this board. And the word is silence. And the whole class is, "Oh my God." And they quickly turn silent. And unfortunate something, I'll just tell you a little about what happens to poor Nimi, and then we will jump to the book that I'm really here to talk about. So poor Nimi, Miss Atmaja says, "Okay, we are going to start with grammar worksheets." So the whole class says, "No, miss, it is the first day of school today. On the first day, we talk about our holidays, we introduce ourselves. You can tell us your name, we will tell you our name." So do you know what Miss Atmaja says? She says, "In that case, all of you will do pages 1 to 17 in the English grammar workbook as homework." Now, how many of you would like to get that much homework on the first day of school? Would you be happy?
Yes.
You would like? Nimi Nimmy's class is horrified. They don't want to do homework, so they start pulling out their English grammar book. Now, Nimi has forgotten that she has that she
Ma'am, you are muted.
And your voice is not coming.
now is it coming?
Yes.
Super.
Yes, ma'am.
Lovely. So Nimi has forgotten that she has bought a present for Sophia. And the present is one of those little toys, you know, when you press them down, they jump. Have you seen those? You get those little dolls or those little animals that jump. So Nimi has bought Sophia a very ugly spider that to press down and it jumps.
Ma'am, Jack in the box. Ma'am,
Yes,
Jack
that
in the
kind
box.
of thing. That kind of thing. Now, but Sophia has become so strange that Nimi doesn't give her the present. When Nimi is looking for her English grammar workbook, she puts that present on her desk. And nobody knows how it happens. But somehow, maybe Nimi puts a book on it by mistake. Maybe somebody passing presses down. But somebody presses down on that little packet. And because there is a spring inside, the little packet jumps from Nimi's desk and goes high up into the classroom. And there is a girl named Sakina in the class. If somebody sneezes 3 buildings away, she will scream. So when a brown packet jumps up into the top of the classroom, what does Sakina do? Any guesses? And the brown package lands on somebody else's table and then it goes jumping up and it hits the classroom fan. And then it lands up right in front of Miss Atmaja and jumps up, and hits her on the nose. And by this time, everyone in the class is laughing except for 2 people. Person 1 is Miss Atmaja and person 2 is poor Nimi. And Miss Atmaja says, "Who has done this?" Silence in the classroom. Miss Atmaja says, "Who has done this?" Again, silence in the classroom. Miss Atmaja says, "If you don't own up, there will be no football and no cricket for the whole year." Very slowly, one hand goes up quietly in the classroom. And Nimi says, "I am sorry, miss. It is a mistake." Miss Atmaja looks at Nimi and says, "What is your name?" Nimi says, "Nimi." "What is your full name?" Nimi says, "Nimi Daruwala." Miss Atmaja says, "Nimi Daruwala, the troublemaker of Standard 6. I will be watching you." And that is how poor Nimi finds herself with an enemy who is worse than Mogambo, worse than Darth Vader, worse than Voldemort, worse than all the most scary people you can think of. But that is slowly Nimi. Do you think Nimi finds a new friend after Sophia is mean to her? She does. Slowly. It takes some time, but she does. And over here in Nimi's spectacular school days, she starts to realize that there is a world outside, even if people are mean to you, and she learns how to deal with it. Then the second book in the series is called Nimi's Fantastic Detective Days. And in this book, she solves the mystery of the burst beanbag. Do you all know what a beanbag is?
Yes.
Yes. So
Yes,
somebody,
ma'am. I have one in the class.
the principal of the school, Mr. Bakshi buys beanbags for the whole school, and somebody in Standard 6 bursts the beanbag on the very first day. So Nimi solves the case by being a detective. And on the way, poor Nimi hates cooking, but she has to take part in a MasterChef competition called Cookaroo. That's Mr. Bakshi decides to call the MasterChef competition Cookaroo, and poor Nimi is very, very worried about it. But she and her new best friend are in a team together, and Nimi tells the new best friend, "You know, the only amount of cooking I can do is maybe cutting one cucumber into 2 pieces. And that too, I think I will bleed or break a bone or something." But they manage. Book number 3 is called Nimi's Bizupa Birthday. And it is, of course, about Nimi's birthday. Nimi is turning 12. And so what do you think she asked for her birthday present? What do you think she asks her parents for?
Doll.
After what? By then she has a friend.
Ma'am, a new friend.
A phone, correct. Has got it. She asks for a phone.
Cycle.
And her mummy first says, no, no, no phone. You're too young. But finally her mummy says, okay, you get a phone. Now, the problem is, Nimi, when she types on her phone, she often sends messages without checking. And this can be a problem because her phone has a very bossy spell check. So the first time she sends a message to her friend Maria, guess what the phone makes that? The message goes to Maria saying, hi, Malaria, what are you doing? And Maria is very angry. Why are you calling me Malaria? And then she's taking part in a Scrabble competition, Nimi. So she sends a message to a senior girl called Tara about some book. And do you know what the horrible phone makes Tara into? Tarantula, which is a very poisonous spider. And Tara is very, very angry. But the worst happens when she sends a message on the class chat on which Miss Atmaja is there. Now they are having like a potluck party and all the children are typing in what they will take. And Nimi gets very stressed and she says, I will take chicken nuggets and harissa paste. But the phone makes chicken nuggets into children nuggets and harissa paste into Harish Bhai paste. Harish Bhai is a driver. And it makes dear Miss Atmaja into, any guesses? Dead Miss Atmaja. And Miss Atmaja is furious and she is determined that Nimi must be thrown out of the school. But that is Bizupa birthday. The book I'm here to chat about actually is called Nimi's Crofel Camping Day. And now it starts on the first day of Standard 7. And I'm going to read out a little from the book, okay? I'm reading the first chapter, little bit of the first chapter. Nimi didn't wake up on the first day of grade 7. It's impossible to wake up when you haven't slept. And Nimi hadn't slept, not for one of the 347 minutes that had passed since she went to bed. Or, to be more precise, since she had gone to sleeping bag. Instead, she lay on her back and made a list. The heading of the list was ways in which life is being most unfair on the ghastliest night of life. Nimi was an almost teenager. Like many almost teenagers, she did exaggerate on occasion. But on this particular occasion, there was no need to exaggerate. Life had laid out a 5-star hotel style buffet of miseries. There was Nimi's bladder, which was threatening to explode like the can of Coke that she had forgotten in the freezer on Monday. So she really wanted to go to the toilet, but she couldn't because she was stuck in a camp, right? Her eyes, which felt like they had been attacked by a kitchen scrubber. Her feet, which had just recovered from their 7th bout of pins and needles. A sleeping bag, which should actually have been called a keep awaking bag. And of course, the item that jumped right out in bold, italicized capital letters, tent number 5. Because whichever way Nimi looked at it, tent number 5 was the supervillain of this story. So Nimi and her class, why are they in a tent on the first day of Standard 7? Mr. Bakshi, the principal of their school, is very, very worried because this class has had so many problems. He is worried because while Sumit was teasing Nimi, he kept shouting odd words, and Mr. Bakshi thinks that Sumit believes that he is a sheep. Mr. Bakshi is worried about that. He's also worried because odd things keep happening, beanbags keep exploding. So he wants this class to become friendlier with each other, to become happier. So he decides that on the first day of Standard 7, instead of having a normal first day when everybody comes in with their bags and writes their names in the new books and covers all their books, he will send Standard 7 for a camp with a team building with some people who will teach them how to be a team and how to be friendly and how to be happy. So he sends them an email saying, you will, on the first day of Standard 7, you are going to go to this camp in Shingora village, and you are going to be very happy, and you are going to wake up in the lap of nature and learn with the birds and bees. Now, Nimi's class is not very sure that they want to go on this camp. There are a couple of problems. Firstly, it's really, really, really rainy in Mumbai and in the areas around Mumbai. The night that Mr. Bakshi has chosen for the camp has been predicted to be one of the rainiest nights of the year. So it's going to be a little problematic. Number two, Nimi's classmates and Nimi are not sure that they want to wake up with a whole lot of bees and birds and all. They're not sure how it'll go. Anyway, Mr. Bakshi is the principal, and he's a very sweet man, and usually everybody obeys him. So the entire class decides that, okay, we are going on this camp. Now, everybody of the class chat, everybody starts to talk about the camp. And there are all kinds of rumors. Rumor number one, there will be bears. We have to be very careful because we might be attacked by bears. Now, do you think, sorry? Do you think that there are bears outside Mumbai?
No, ma'am.
Because there's a big fight. Because some people say there are bears. Some people say there are no bears. So there's a big fight happening on the class chat. Then the people who are conducting the camp say, you cannot bring any outside food because it will attract animals. So nobody is to bring outside food. So everybody is very worried, especially the two really naughty boys of the class whose names are Rohan and Imran. They are especially worried because they want to eat every half an hour. So the first thing they check is there a McDonald's near the camp? And they realize there is no McDonald's, there is no pizza, there is no dosa, there is no tandoori chicken. The closest restaurant is a half an hour walk from the camp. And the name of that place is Chaiwala, just Chaiwala. So Rohan and Imran are very, very worried about how they are going to eat during the camp. Anyway, and then there are all these rumors about what they will do in these camps. So somebody says, oh, my father's office organized a team building camp, and they had to build towers out of bottle caps, and they had to wrap each other in newspapers. So the students decide, let us ask Mr. Bakshi, can we please play football instead? Now, Rohan says, I will write the letter to Mr. Bakshi. Rohan is not a good choice for this because his average marks in English are maybe 7.5 on 100. Would you trust a boy like that to write a letter to your principal?
No.
But he's so enthusiastic that he thinks everybody says, okay, Rohan, you write the letter. So first, Rohan starts looking up internet to see how to write a letter to a principal. And he finds all kinds of information. And I will read out the first letter that he writes. Then I will read out the second letter that he writes. So the first letter is, Dear Sir / Madam. Because on the internet, that's how all the letters are written. Dear Sir / Madam. This humble petition is to bring to your kind notice that our class has a humble request. We are humbly requesting you to let us play football instead of littering nature with newspapers and bottle caps and mutton. So some people say instead of bottle caps, we will cause environmental damage. So we should use things, biodegradable things. So they're thinking of biodegradable things, coconuts, mutton bones, things like that. We are humbly suggesting that playing football will be better than cooking chicken curry, because some people say that in the team building exercises, they make you cook curry. We must not hurt the sentiments of our vegetarian friends. Also, football will not attract the bears. Bears are dangerous. Football is good for team building and team spirit. We are humbly telling you that people who are scared of heights cannot climb rocks, but they can play football. Yours truly, Rohan, on behalf of the class. Now, Rohan reads this letter 2-3 times. And he thinks, this letter does not have punch. My tuition teacher is always telling me, put in big words, put in fancy language. So let me look for fancy words. So he goes on to Google and he looks at an online dictionary and he starts to look for synonyms. Do you all know what synonyms are? Another word that means the same
Same meaning words.
meaning words. So Rohan starts to
The word meaning to the exact word.
exactly. He looks at an online dictionary and then he puts in a whole lot of synonyms and thinks of creative ways. And this is the letter that poor Mr. Bakshi actually wakes up to one morning. And I think there are teachers and principals here, and if they open their computer and found this letter, I think even they would be very alarmed. And I am going to read that letter. Dear Sir/Madam, this clobbering petition is to bring to your bountiful intelligence that our class has a low-born obsecration. What? We are humbly requesting you to let us play football instead of littering the cosmos with newspapers and bottle caps and biodegradable mutton bones. We are servilely conveying that football will be better for falsifying chicken curry because it would not be good to scrape the tenderness of our vegetarian friends. Also, football will not ambush the unclothed, naked are dangerous. Football is good for team building and gangrene. We are trouncingly urging you that even though acrophobic people cannot conquer boulders, they can cavort with a ball. Yours straightforwardly, Rohan, on behalf of the echelon. Now, these are the things. How do you think Mr. Bakshi felt when he received this letter? How do you think? What did Mr. Bakshi feel? Confused and a little scared, a little worried, surprised.
Horrible.
Horrible. So these were the things that especially frightened Mr. Bakshi. That Rohan was not sure if his school principal was male or female, that this was a clobbering petition. Whatever that was, it seemed to go against the friendly spirit of the moment. That there was something not very nice about the phrase, scrape the tenderness of our vegetarian friends. It made Mr. Bakshi imagine a giant vegetable peeler chasing vegetarian students around grade 7. Rohan seemed to have an irrational fear of naked people. Rohan seemed to believe that football was a cure for gangrene. He must have got it from one of those WhatsApp forwards that were always spreading misinformation. The fact that Rohan knew the meaning of the word obsecration and Mr. Bakshi did not. So now Mr. Bakshi reads this letter about 20 times and he decides, A, that Rohan needs help. So he quickly phones the school counselor, who's a lady named Miss Karuna, and says, Miss Karuna, please go on this camp and keep a lookout for Rohan. Then he thinks, okay, Rohan wants vegetarian food. He does not want non-vegetarian food. So I will have our Amit ji cook a big pot of vegetarian curry and send it to the camp. And he thinks, so he decides all that and he's very, very worried about Rohan's strange behavior. Now the camp happens. The children all land up at the campsite after a long bus ride. And Nimi is quite miserable because when they reach, they are given rooms and Nimi lands up in a room with, who can guess? Who is in Nimi's room? In Nimi's tent. Who is in Nimi's tent? It's only girls.
Maria?
Nimi's tent. Sophia and
Maria.
Alicia Dubash and Sophia.
Maria.
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 Not Maria. Nimi likes Maria. So she would have been but Sophia, Alicia, and a girl named Grishma who keeps crying. So Sophia, Alicia, and groaning Grishma. So Nimi is very miserable. But more than that, Nimi is miserable because Alicia Dubash has brought a whole sack full of food to eat at night. And Nimi starts to get very scared that all kinds of bears and rats will enter the tent. And Nimi is also scared. It's very dark and very windy. And Nimi's been watching this serial on Netflix about a camp in a lonely lake. And a mad man, evil man enters the camp. So Nimi starts imagining that the camp is going to be overtaken by bears and rats and scary men. So she quickly sends a message to Tarun. Tarun, how big can rats get? Now, this is a bad idea because Tarun, as you know, her brother Tarun is an encyclopedia. So he writes back to her and said, don't worry. In prehistoric times, rats used to be as big as buffaloes. But now those rats have gone away. Now rats are only, the biggest rat is like 2.5 feet. And Nimi gets really frightened. She said, 2.5 feet? That's as tall as Dharini, little Dharini who lives next door. I don't want to meet a rat that size. Anyway, so Nimi is lying in the camp that night. It's pouring outside. She wants to go to the toilet. She's trying to sleep. Her sleeping bag is poking her in a horrible way. And it's raining and raining. And she can see the ceiling of the tent going lower and lower and water collecting. And she's thinking to herself, life cannot get any worse. And it's about, 4:15 in the morning. And she's thinking, nothing. This is the worst that life can get. Grim plus ghastly. This is the worst. But then something happens in the next 30 seconds and life gets worse. Because the flap of the tent opens and in the blackness, something blacker than the rest of the blackness enters the tent. And Nimi lies there. Everybody else in the tent is asleep. But Nimi lies there wondering, what does she wonder? Is this a
Ma'am, a bear.
bear?
Ma'am, horse.
Is it a rat? Or is it a madman who is out to kill all of us? Do you think he would be afraid?
She would be shouting.
Do you think you would be afraid? And what do you think? So Nimi is lying there terrified, and I am not going to tell you who or what enters the tent. For the moment, I hope one day that if this book is there in your library or you feel like reading it one day, you will read it. But for the moment, I thought we would chat a little about reading and writing. So I know that some of you had questions and yes, an imaginary animal. Somebody sent me a very lovely answer. An imaginary animal composed of a compound animal, maybe a bear plus rat, a rare, a bat, a brat. I don't know.
I'm a bear rat.
A bear rat. But I know that some of you had questions and your teachers have sent them to me. So would you like to ask me the questions now, or do you want to chat about anything at all?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, I'm the news. I'm the news.
Yes. So why don't you ask me the questions you'll
Can
have?
we talk about magical creatures?
I can't hear you. Could you just tell me a little
Ma'am, can we talk about magical creatures?
about teachers?
Magical creatures.
Magical creatures. Of course, we can talk about magical creatures. So what kind of magical creatures do you want to talk about? What is your favorite magical creature?
Ma'am, dragons.
Even I love dragons. So actually, I'm trying to think, does my book have any magical creatures? I have books which have ghosts. I have books which have people with superpowers. And I have books with fairies. But I don't have any magical creatures. So maybe one day I will create a new magical creature. Maybe a unicorn plus dragon. A dracon would be fun, right?
Good morning, ma'am. I'm from Gold City campus from 5A. I wanted to ask what inspired you to write this story? Ma'am,
The
what
Nimi-
inspired you? Ma'am,
Nimi
what
story
inspired you to write? Yes, ma'am.
inspired me to write Nimi. So, okay. So, like I said, up to the point that I wrote Nimi, most of the main characters in my books had some kind of magical power. So, there was one girl in this book called The Shy Supergirl. This book this girl, whenever she meets new people, she can see colors around them. And depending on the colors around them, she knows what kind of people they are, whether they are happy or sad, whether they are kind or unkind. Then in Six Spellmakers of Dorabji Street, the children, obviously, they use spells to defeat the old women. Then I'm looking. In The Strange Haunting of Model High School, there is a ghost in the book. But in this book, I wanted a story, and I wanted my main character to be a person like you or like me. And I wanted all her classmates like Imran and Rohan to be the kind of people we know every day and everywhere. And I wanted a series of books about the kind of feelings we get when we are in school, when our friends are mean to us, when our teachers are strict, when our teachers are kind, when when we have to take part in a competition and we are very afraid we are going to lose, when it's our birthday and something wrong happens on our birthday and we are very sad because we want it to be the best day in the world and then things go wrong. These kind of things happen to all of us. So I wanted
Ma'am.
to write books of that kind, books that told our story. No magic powers, no superpowers, no ghosts, but just the kind of things we feel when we are at home, when we go to school, when somebody else's shoes are better than our shoes and we are feeling sad about it, those kind of things.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Ma'am, I'm from 4th A. Ma'am, I wanted to ask you that what challenges did you face while writing this book?
When I was writing the Nimi book. Okay, so this is the first time I've written a series. Usually I write one book and then I stop. And then the story ends and then I go on to a new story. The first time I wrote 4 books about the same characters. So it's easy because I know the characters very well. So now if you tell me what would Rohan do, or what would Imran do, or what would Sumit do, or what would Sophia or Alisha Dubash do, I would know immediately. But there are a couple of problems because what happens when we grow up, when we move from standard 6 to standard 7, we change, don't we? We grow up, we do new things, we wear different kinds of clothes, we have different kinds of thoughts. So I had to make my characters grow up slowly. And I had to make sure that they were familiar to the reader, but they were also changing as they grew up. And so in the first 3 books, like Nimi's Spectacular School Days, then book 2 is Detective Days, and then Bizupa Birthday. Nimi is in grade 6, and she remains very sad about Sophia not being her friend. But
Excuse me, ma'am.
yes.
Jai Jagat, ma'am, I'm from Indranagar campus too. My question to you is, which of your previous book is closest to your heart and why?
Okay, so everyone always asks me this question, and I always have the same answer. Now, I have 3 daughters. Do you think I have a favorite daughter? Do you think I have a favorite daughter? I don't. I love all my daughters. Just like that, it's very difficult to have a favorite book. So every book is special in some ways. This was my first book. Then this was my first book to win a very big award. So I love when my Jia met Urmila. Then let me think. Yeah. So this is called Saira Jariwala is Afraid, and I've always loved horror. So it was the first horror book I wrote, so I love it for that. Then I've always wanted to write a really good murder mystery where nobody can guess the killer. I wrote Murder at Daisy Apartment, and many people had trouble guessing. So I love Nimi because in a way I've spent so many years with Nimi. I write a new Nimi book every year.
Ma'am, who is your favorite story which you have not written and any other writer has written?
I love Jane Austen and I love all of her books. And I love her book called Pride and Prejudice and Persuasion. And for children, I love this series of books called William by Richmond Crompton. It's about a very naughty boy and it is just so funny.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Excuse me, ma'am.
I'm Chitrakshi Singh from
Good
Gomti Nagar
afternoon, ma'am.
Campus 1. I have a question for you. Can you share with us what inspired you to become an author and what advice you would you give to us, budding writers like me, who would want to follow your footsteps and write for children?
So I've always wanted to be a writer. I decided when I was about 10 years old that I wanted to write. Okay. One day I was sitting in a class. We used to have a class called moral science. I don't know if you have it, but it's a class which tells you how to be good and how to, be punctual and how to be kind and how to be generous, that kind of thing. And one day the class was about what I will be when I grow up. And there was a question. So when I grow up, I will be kind. When I grow up, I will be careful. When those kind of things. And then there was a question, what will I become when I grow up? And I thought about it, and it suddenly occurred to me that I actually knew the answer. When I grew up, I wanted to be a writer. But as I told you, first I became a journalist, correct? Because I was writing for a newspaper and doing news reporting. But then when my daughters were born, I decided to try my hand at writing a book. And you wanted advice for writing. There are 2 or 3 very important things, okay? So thing number 1 is read a lot. Read and read and read all kinds of things, storybooks, newspaper, everything. Just because the words then become a part of you. They just become as much a part of you as your fingers or your nose. The other thing is, don't keep staring at your phone. This is what I tell all children your age. Your phone, your iPad, your computer, they have a place in your life, but they're not your whole life. You do other things also. And
Ma'am, why do you love writing stories?
let me just finish what I was saying and I'll tell you, okay? 2 minutes. So it is very, very important to see the world. When you're going from one place to another, even if you're stuck in a traffic jam, look out of the window, see how people are behaving, see how people are thinking. And it's only when you understand the world and people that you can write. Sorry, tell me your question again. What you asked me a question?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
My name is Ahan Ibrahim Subba. I'm from Golf City Campus,
Hi.
4C. Ma'am, my
Yeah.
question,
I can't hear it. Yeah.
how did
My name is Vida Sheikh. I'm from Kanpur
you
campus.
develop the art of writing?
Like I said, reading, observing the world, and actually writing. So there is no magic formula for the art of writing, okay? You can write if you read and you see the world and actually write. However much you love writing, if you keep thinking and say, I'm waiting till I get the perfect story, I'm waiting till I get the perfect idea, you will never actually write because you'll keep waiting. So instead of doing that, one day sit down and actually write. And one thing very important in writing, the first thing you write is not perfect. So you must read it again and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite.
Ma'am,
Excuse
me, ma'am.
Who inspired you to
I'm just going to interrupt a bit. Since a lot of classrooms, can everyone mute yourselves, please? Can everyone mute yourselves?
Mute yourselves one at a time. One at a time.
For the children.
Hi, can you please mute yourselves? So since a lot of the classrooms have raised their hands,
Excuse me, ma'am.
we'll give everyone a chance to ask their questions, okay? So I'll call the campus which has
Excuse
raised their
me,
hands,
ma'am.
and then
Good morning,
each
ma'am.
child
Jai
from that
Jagat.
campus
Just a
can ask their
moment.
question.
Just a moment. Ma'am is saying something.
I am
Listen
from
to ma'am.
Rajanipuram 1, class 4A. My question is that how do you develop the personalities of your characters?
So that is a very good question, actually, and it is not easy. And I think how I develop the personalities, I start out, I'll write the character's name and I'll write a few basic details about the character. So maybe when I first think I wrote Nimi, plump cheeks, curly hair, loves words. But as you write, with every incident, you always imagine yourself in the place of the character. Now, I will think, if my best friend was mean to me, what would I do? And then I think, what would Nimi do? And then as you write your story, you get ideas about what the character is. And then you rewrite. So in the beginning, your character may be something. By the end, you realize your character may be something else. So I'll give you an example. Okay. So in Strange Haunting of Model High School, there is a character, one of the main characters is called Lara. And Lara is, she's a very shy and nervous person. Okay. So in the book, she's always afraid. And when I finished writing the book, I felt this girl is too frightened. Why would anybody read a book about a character who's always saying, oh my God, I'm very worried. Oh my God, I'm very miserable. So I changed Lara's full character and I made her, so she's still a nervous girl, but I made her a little braver. So I think just like you meet a person for the first time and you have a lot of conversations with that person, and maybe at the end of a week or 10 days, you get to know that person. Similarly, as you write your book, you get to know your characters. Then you go back and rewrite so that your character is proper from the beginning. So getting to know your character takes time. It's not something you can just sit and do. Oh, my character is a 10-year-old boy named Jack and he likes the color brown and he likes playing cricket. That's not enough. You have to know what Jack will do if he gets a bad dream. You will have to know what Jack will do if somebody scolds him, right? You have to know him fully.
Good
Excuse me,
afternoon,
ma'am.
ma'am. I'm Arnab from.
Ma'am.
Okay, so
Excuse
can
me,
we have
ma'am.
the student?
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon,
Can we have the
ma'am.
student from Station Road campus?
Good afternoon, ma'am. This is Rudra Ra.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Station Road campus, since you all have the hand raised, are you ready to ask ma'am your question?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Okay, so then CMS RN1 primary. Are you ready to ask your question?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
CMS RN1 primary.
Leaders and can build a community.
Okay, CMS Cambridge GN2. There's a girl sitting there. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Good afternoon, ma'am. This is Aishani from CMS Cambridge GN2. I had a few questions actually. So firstly, I wanted to ask you, how do we write like a story that is so realistic that like the reader gets sucked into the story?
So, okay, so again, I was a journalist, right? So my writing is very realistic because journalism is actually about telling people what really happens. So when I write a story, for example, I've written this book called What Maya Saw. And in What Maya Saw, there's like a clue hunt around Mumbai. So they're rushing from one place to another. So I actually did all of that. I actually walked the way the characters walked. I actually drove the way the characters drove. I timed each walk. I timed each drive. So, I actually use the names of real roads. When I describe an area, I go there, I spend a day or two there, I look at what the buildings look like, I try to put in real shop names to sort of create this real world. And it makes a big difference to characters because a lot of my characters eat in this cake shop called Theobroma. I don't know if it's there in Lucknow. So whenever I go to schools, all the children will say, even we eat in Theobroma. So they immediately feel a part of the world of the characters. So I think using the world around you and creating this very real setting helps a lot.
Okay, ma'am. Just one more question. How do you come up with like a good plot twist? Like for example, when we come to the climax, I kind of get like a block. So I'm like stuck at that point. Where do I write further than that? So it's kind of
It's very difficult. And actually, sometimes, I write a lot of murder mysteries and a lot of horror. So the plot twist is very important. It's the most important thing. In fact, my latest book is a romance, but I even in the romance, I had to have a plot twist. So I love plot twists. I will say one thing, don't plan it in the beginning, right? And what I do is I write up to say 80%. So for example, so in Murder in Daisy Apartments, I didn't know who the murderer was. I wrote about 80% of the book. And then I thought, okay, it could be so and so, it could be so and so, it could be so and so. And then I got the idea of the most, like, okay, this is the best idea. And then I wrote it. So the thing with a plot twist is you also should not know what it's going to be right in the beginning. If it comes at the end, it comes as a surprise to you. So it will definitely come as a surprise to the reader. So that is one way to do it.
Story.
LDA branch, can you go next?
Come up with the idea for the story.
LDA branch.
So ideas are a tricky one. But you know something? Unfortunately, you all are too many of you, and it's very difficult. But I often do this idea exercise in writing workshops when I go and work with children. So we start with something very boring. Okay. So give me the name of a girl. Let's say Shalini. Okay. So Shalini and her mummy have gone to the shop to buy dal and rice and rin soap. And is that a story? Do you think that's a story? No. So what if Shalini and her mummy have gone? So what do we do to make it a story? How do you make that a story? And you know, when you make that into a story, you see that everything in the world around you that you are observing is actually giving you an idea for something. And once you realize the trick of finding ideas, then in any given day, you will have about 20 ideas for a story. Anything that happens, you think that could be a story, that could be a story. And the other thing is, ideas don't come fully formed in a gift box, with a big bow on top. They come sort of, they're like butterflies. They come and they go. So I keep an idea book. And whenever I have an idea, I just scribble down 5-6 words.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
How do we write a story in a real life?
How do you write a story in real life? I think the best way to write a story is to think, what is my story going to be about? Who are the people in my story? And then you start writing. And as you start writing, little ideas will come and you build upon it.
Ma'am, my question.
Ma'am, LDA branch has been waiting to ask you their question for a while. So let's
Good
just
afternoon,
give them
ma'am.
a chance.
Excuse me, ma'am.
I request everyone to mute yourself so we can hear LDA branch, please. Yes, go ahead.
Ma'am, my name is Reda Sheikh. I'm from LDA branch and class 6. I wanted to ask that how is it challenging for you to write age appropriate content for the children of our age?
You're on
Ma'am,
mute,
you're on
Shabnam
mute.
ma'am.
Sorry,
You
sorry.
need to unmute yourself. Yeah, thank you.
So the children of your age today are very different from the children of your age when I was a little girl, okay? We did not have Netflix, we did not have phones, we didn't have social media. So our world was very different. So, but for me, what actually has been very lucky is I've had 3 daughters. And as they have grown up, I have also grown with them because I know the kind of things that are happening in schools. I know, so sort of I know what they are watching on TV. I know what content is appropriate. When I write a horror book, for example, I know exactly how scary to make it. I won't make it more scary than a child can manage, but I want the child to feel a little scared. So then often I write and I ask my daughters to read. And I ask them, is this too frightening? Is this too upsetting? And they will say, no, it is fine. Or on my horror book, my daughter said, I couldn't sleep for 2 nights. So I said, okay, that is perfect. 2 nights is good. So I use my daughters and other readers to tell me what they feel.
Ma'am, I'm from Campus Primary Section. Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Kavya from Kanpur Road Campus. My question to you is that as we have a lot of international comic universe like Marvel and DC. So can I have my own indigenous comic universe?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that question.
Ma'am, my question to you is that we have a lot of international comic universe like Marvel and DC. Can I have my own, how can I create one of my own indigenous comic universe?
Could you come closer to the mic or,
She's asking the international universes like Marvel and stuff. She wants to know how she can create her own indigenous universe.
So creating worlds, creating universes, there's nothing more fun than that. And I would say don't jump into writing, jump into creating. So keep a notebook, write the kind of things, whatever your universe is, however you imagine it, put in the details, the physical details, why it's different from the universe you inhabit. Build it slowly, in terms of smells, in terms of sights, in terms of the people who inhabit it. And then imagine in this universe, what is the best story that I could write, and then write. It's a lot of fun. to create
Hey,
your own
ma'am,
book.
I want to ask a question. I'm Simra Mujib of CMS Mahanagar branch. Ma'am, my question is like, who has inspired you of becoming an author and writing books, or from where did you took your ideas, or you got an idea from other authors' book?
So some ideas you get from other writers because sometimes it's not even conscious, but you'll read what they write and it starts a thought process. But most of my ideas I get from real life. So let me give you an example. Okay, so Saira Zariwala is Afraid, my horror book. I got the idea when my oldest daughter turned 11. She asked for a phone. When she got her phone, unfortunately, she seemed to have gotten the phone number of somebody who had just given up their phone number. And so all the messages that were coming to her were not for her, but for somebody called Vishesh. And the messages were quite strange. Like, Vishesh, where are you? Vishesh, why aren't you replying? Vishesh, I didn't see you at the party. And then one day her phone rang and there was a woman and the woman was shouting. She said, Vishesh, I am your Priya Mami. For 2 months, there's been no contact. We are so worried about you. And I got very, very interested. I wanted to know where Vishesh was. My daughter was getting very angry. She was blocking everybody who was trying to contact her on the phone, contact Vishesh. But I became very interested and I kept Googling to try and find this Vishesh, but I never got an answer. So I thought, okay, maybe if I can't get an answer in real life, I can get an answer in fiction. And so that is actually how Saira Zariwala started. Saira gets a new phone. All the messages are for somebody called Akash. Saira starts to interact. She starts to pretend to be Akash to find out more. And she starts to answer questions, which is a bad idea because the people who are looking for Akash are not very good people. And so,
Good afternoon, ma'am.
story ideas.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I am Rudra Rai from City Montessori School, Cambridge, Komtinagar Extension. I had 3 questions for you. My first question is, how did your education in journalism at the University of South California shape your career?
So I think journalism shaped my career in multiple ways because journalism teaches you to a few things. It teaches you to see the world and to observe details. Okay, because when you write an article, suppose you're covering a fire, you will go and observe everything. You will figure out how tall the building is. You will figure out how much has gotten burnt. You will figure out what the people are saying, what the rumors are about what the fire, how the fire started. So you learn to hear, you learn to listen, you learn to see. The other thing is journalism teaches you to talk to people of all kinds. On one day you will start your day in a slum. You will go to a 5-star hotel. In the evening, you will go and meet the police commissioner. That is life of a journalist. When you meet so many people, your characters can be very different, right? Because I know what a police officer will think or act like. So I can put a police officer into my book and know he will be quite realistic. I know what a lot, I go and meet people all over the city. So I know what different parts of the city are like. So journalism is very rich in that way. It really feeds fiction. Your next question?
My next question is, what are the key differences you find in writing for children versus for young adults?
Of course, age appropriate content. So young adults can have a little romance. Young adults can have like more scary stuff, more graphic stuff. Young adults can be about issues. So my new young adult book, it's called Zen. It's a slightly political book. So the characters have different politics. The boy and the girl believe in different politics. And my whole question is, can they then be romantically? I mean, they love each other, but can anything happen? Or will they just keep fighting? So, you can ask these more complicated questions. Whereas books for children, I try to make it relevant to their immediate life, to the feelings that they're feeling. Even I have done a murder mystery for younger children. It's called Body in the Swimming Pool. But I am careful to make it less, I mean, there'll not be nothing upsetting in there. It's more like a clue cracking thing than anything upsetting. So next question.
My last question to you is, are there any upcoming projects or books that you are currently working on that you can share with us?
Yeah, so I'm writing all the time. I write every day, day and night. So I've just finished a book for younger children, a funny book about 2 children who the school is having a jumble sale, and they both want their class to raise the most money. So they go around their colony and start like taking little things away, wire from, a bulb from the staircase, odd things, a trap for rats to sell at the jumble sale. And then I'm writing a murder mystery about these two children whose father died 11 years ago at a hill station called Matheran. The father dies, and
Excuse me.
everybody thinks he's fallen down. But now the daughter decides to try and.
Thank you for answering my questions, ma'am.
Sure. I will have to get off this call, I think, in a couple of minutes because it's 12:30
Yes,
and my computer's down to 7%. So I'm afraid
Right.
it's going to die any minute.
Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse
So,
me.
ma'am, how would you want to proceed? I mean, there are a lot of questions. Maybe you all can send in your questions.
My question is,
I think we can.
Ma'am, I'm Akshay Khan from CMS station.
Hi, we'll just pause all the questions for now. I know you have a lot of questions for
I'm
ma'am.
Rohini of class 6.
But I think one of the teachers started saying something and then got muted. Ma'am, can you please unmute yourself?
This is Mrs. Ajela.
Yes, ma'am.
I would request you, Andres ma'am, to conclude the session because we can go on, and this is so very interesting. It's absolutely engrossing, engaging, even for adults like me. And I'm sure all the other teachers who are participating and are part of this entire exercise from their various campuses. The kids have really had a blast. I can see that. They've really enjoyed themselves to the hilt. They had so many questions. And ma'am, Shabnam ma'am, I think we all need to clap for Shabnam ma'am for doing a brilliant job of the stories that she shared with us. She's been so animated, so full of energy, so enthusiastic. It's almost as if she was with us in Lucknow City. And you just mentioned right at the outset that this is one of your favorite cities.
Yeah.
So you owe us a visit, ma'am. And you owe us a visit at CMS. The kids would be more than happy, as would we, to have you over and for you to spend time here with us in Lucknow to share your stories. And we take you around the city for you to enjoy yourself. Thank you so very much. And I think it's about time. We should respect ma'am's time. She's given us more than an hour. And it's been absolutely awesome. Over to you, ma'am, to conclude the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here on a Saturday morning and for being so energetic. And nothing makes anyone happier than so many questions. So I hope one day we get to meet and I will answer all your questions in person. Okay?
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for your time and thank you for this lovely session. As ma'am said, every single person enjoyed it thoroughly. So thank you so
Glad.
much, ma'am. Thank you.
Bye. I'm
Bye,
happy
everyone.
because my computer is now 4% and I'm afraid.
Yes,
So-
ma'am. See you. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Have a lovely day, students.
Bye, all of you. Bye.
Thank you, children. Thank you, teachers. Jai Jagat. Bye-bye.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye.